Hello everybody and welcome to another video. In today's review, we'll be taking a closer look at the CR10 Smart Pro version by Creality and see what this machine has to offer. Full disclaimer, I purchased this machine with my own money in order to do this review, so everything you see here is based on my own opinion. For those of you who follow this channel, you already know my opinion on the regular CR10 Smart, and this was quite different experience mixed in with some familiar ones. To start things off, I didn't need to update my firmware in order to get the machine to function properly, which is always a good sign. If you need to update your machine, however, make sure to check my other video since there's quite a few things to be aware of when starting off. So while the update process is quite finicky, it isn't required to get a functioning machine. Unlike previous machines, the company has decided to stop providing the source code, and this will make future upgrades more difficult and can prevent newer features from becoming available. Like most budget-friendly machines, most of these are notorious for not updating to the newer version of Marlin, which often limits their usability and can sometimes present safety issues. I did test thermal runaway protection, and I'm happy to report that the safeties are in place for the stock version of the firmware. One thing I would have liked to see, however, is a specific warning of what was triggered to make it easier to troubleshoot later on. As is, there's just a generic warning in place. Now, if this warning triggers when you first get your machine, it could be that you improperly installed the connection to the hot end assembly. So you'll first want to reseat it, making sure that both ends are properly secured and held in place with both the clips and the bracket. With the inclusion of the adjustment knobs, it's easily adjusted to ensure a proper bed adhesion. When you first get your machine, you'll first want to manually adjust the bed leveling prior to doing an automatic one. Once completed, you can choose to include an auto bed leveling procedure in your G-code command or do so when needed. As long as your print bed is leveled, you should only need to do this periodically instead. I will have a separate video on how to level your print bed, but for now, I do have the downloadable PDF for this machine if you need it right away. This machine, like so many others on the market, has tin wire connections which should be replaced with ferro ones. This is unfortunately a pattern with most companies, and I would like to see this be changed in the future since it does pose a safety risk. I already have a video going over this process in more detail, so please feel free to check that out if you're unsure of what's involved. The hot end assembly has been updated to include the spread extruder with an all-metal upgrade. With this addition, you can now print with a higher temperature material right out of the box instead of having to add this feature yourself. There is still a small bone and tube connection that connects the feeder, which I prefer to replace the Capricorn one, but I wouldn't say that this is required unless you encountered issues. Both the entire hot end is a custom design, so unfortunately it would be difficult to purchase replacements from any other vendors at this time, but it is designed so that the key components can easily be swapped out. The remainder of the hot end assembly is quite difficult to take apart since all the components have been tightly integrated together. Luckily, it doesn't seem like this should be needed unless you're doing any modifications. They seem to have learned from the Ender 3 S1 and have added some additional support for the hot end assembly cable. The cable does still do a twisting motion when moving around, which could cause it to wear over time, and there isn't currently a purchasable replacement cable. Some of the hot end connections use a non-standard connector, which could make alternative replacement parts more difficult to find. The heat break also uses a different length and threading size than what's standard, which once again makes it difficult to find alternative versions of these parts. The machine which I purchased showed signs of pre-testing, so quality control may have been improved in comparison to previous versions. A great new feature is the integrated lighting, which has been included with the machine out of the box, and is something which I didn't think I would need until it was available. So far, this has made it a lot easier to work on a machine and turns off automatically when the machine is powered off. Alternatively, you can turn on the light with the power switch as well, making this new feature quite convenient to use. The bottom screws that attach to the base of the machine are quite easily stripped, so be very careful when putting them in or taking them out. I will be replacing those since I don't want to risk being unable to access the components of my machine. When you open up your machine, you'll see the integrated Creality Wi-Fi box, which of course I disconnected so I could use the USB port to connect my computer or Raspberry Pi directly. I have a previous video going through this process if you intend to do the same. The build plate has been upgraded to a flex build plate, and they've added some indentations to make it easier to line up during reinstallation. I personally love this new feature because it makes it so much faster to swap the build plate in and out. If you have a printing farm, then having a series of build plates you can swap out just became a lot faster with this machine. This machine has a lot of new innovations, and I'm happy to see that they've been properly implemented. With this, however, we're looking at a much higher price point, especially when comparing it to a regular CR10 Smart. So is this worth the price? If you want something that works out of the box, then this gets a solid recommendation, but I would also consider how some of this has been locked down by the manufacturer. You see, without the source code files and easily purchasable components, this machine does have a limited lifespan in comparison to other machines. With a regular Ender 3 V2, for example, I can easily upgrade the hot end to whatever I feel like using, and this means I can replace parts from a larger amount of suppliers, in turn increasing the lifespan of the machine. It's for this reason that the machine gets a 7 out of 10. It's a good machine, but without the additional support material and the files, it may not be as repairable in the future unless you've created an account with the company and signed this very shady contract. Oh yeah, as a YouTuber, I'm not gonna agree to that. I've started creating downloadable support files and mods for the machines I've reviewed, so if you're looking for some additional information, I would suggest you follow the link in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you guys again soon. Thank you and take care.